Marc Taddei approached me with the idea that he would like me to work with Orchestra Wellington in his capacity as music director, and we had a meeting in Ponsonby over coffee, and sort of discussed some potential ideas. And a few months went by, and I said, "Oh, what about a cello concerto or a this or that?" And Marc came back to me and said, "Actually, Alex, I know this fantastic visual artist, Simon Ingram, and you and he would make a great team. I can see something multimedia, multidisciplinary coming together that would be really strange and unusual. Would you be up for that?"
Marc is someone that I've known for a while, and is a collector of artwork, and Marc had one of my works in his collection that dated back to a performance his quartet did in an exhibition I had in 2003. And Marc was working with Alex Taylor at the time, and thought it was an obvious and good choice to put us two together. We got together and developed some ideas, and made complete sense to progress the conversation.
Simon and I got together and sort of figured out a way to make a piece together, basically. As a collaboration, first of all, we sort of had to work out what we wanted to do. What was this collaboration exactly? Essentially a composer of mostly acoustic instrumental music, concert music, I suppose you could say, and a visual artist whose primary practice is mechanical paintings, or semi-autonomous paintings, or paintings derived from radio frequencies or other processes. Simon has an amazing catalogue of really interesting works that engage with sort of technology and the autonomy of the artist and all sorts of things. So the initial thought was, oh well, Simon could make something visual and I could make music to respond to that. And that seemed like an easy option maybe. So I was quite interested in his painting machines and what they actually sounded like. So instead of going for a kind of visual to sonic translation or one-to-one relationship, we focused on the sonic aspect of his mechanical painting practice.
We did some experimentation figuring out what particular movements of the machine, what particular kinds of arcs and lines and circles and vertical, horizontal, diagonal lines would make compelling sounds that Alex could then construct a musical conversation in relation or around.
And then from there, basically Simon finished his part of it for that part, and I took that and sort of crafted an orchestral canvas around it. In a way, it became sort of like a fixed media piece, in that his creation was like a tape part over which I created the orchestra interacting with that. And then Simon came back in rehearsal and performance to actually operate the machine and coordinate the integration of those two mediums.
The music world, or especially the classical music world, is not my world, so it was completely fascinating and a real privilege to be part of that world for a time.
The visual aspect's very important. When I submitted the piece for the SOUNZ Contemporary Award, I was only allowed to submit audio, which it made it even more surprising that it was chosen as a finalist, because the visual component is so essential to the experience of the piece. To me, even though a lot of audience members said that they had the experience of being sort of overwhelmed by the amount of stimuli, particularly because of the way it was presented in the concert with this large video screen. They were watching, the live mechanical the painting machine, the projection of the robot as well, and then they were watching the orchestra. They were watching projections of the orchestra, the sound, the images, and I think the total experience was one of somewhat overload. But I think that was quite an interesting experience. Simon made a very deliberate decision to kind of create this almost sort of Malevich suprematist kind of like triangle, circle, square, iconographic, bright red, huge thick paint strokes on a tiny canvas that is sort of distant from the audience, and there's a sense that the act of this machine going through the motions is sort of banal or futile or straining against something, and then you're left with this kind of insignia almost. It to me, it reminds me a lot of like the Antifa symbol, or a kind of a graffito. It's like graphic and potent and kind of hits you in the face, but you've been watching it hit you in the face for the last 15 minutes, and so when you eventually get it, it's kind of like, oh, is that it? But yeah, I guess I was taking that, my experience of the simplicity and even futility or irony of that image as a starting point for some of the music. It's really nice to be nominated alongside Celeste and Michael. I'm actually currently living in the house that Celeste was living in. I'm here in San Diego, in Hillcrest, and Celeste moved out of this house about 2 months ago, and I've moved into her old room. And we've done a lot of projects together, and Michael's also a longtime colleague. He was my first mentor at Nelson Composers Workshop in 2008. So I've got very dear relationships with both of those composers, and I'm really very happy and humbled to be a finalist alongside them.